What's up, Visionary? I am Clee Davis, your vision actualization mentor, back with another episode to help you break down your vision building barriers. Today, we're talking about how to operate in your purpose. Okay, so the bottom line is building your vision can be hard, really hard. The process has a lot of peaks and valleys, and I know the only way someone can endure those peaks and valleys is if they have a higher purpose. They know why they're doing what they're doing. But what does operating in your present purpose look like? What does it feel like? Well, that's why I thought it would be appropriate to bring someone on the show who is operating in their purpose so that we can get a glimpse inside of what operating your purpose is like and how we can apply it to our lives. I brought on the show Toson Antwan Knight. Toson is the president and founder of the nonprofit organization called Caught Up. Toson will explain to you in more detail shortly what Caught Up is all about. Now, throughout the episode, you'll hear Toson and I refer to a place called Oakwood quite often. And if you don't know what Oakwood is, it's a private college in Alabama, the school both Toson and I graduated from, even though we graduated nearly 10 years or over 10 years apart from each other, really, now that I think about it. Wow. Well, Toson shares with us his successes, his failures, his story, and most importantly, how he operates in his purpose. So let's get into this episode with Toson Antwan Knight. Sonexa, our visionary profile, please.
Loading. Visionary profile. Toson Antwan Knight. Hometown, Detroit, Michigan. Occupation, Dean of Students at Detroit Public Schools. Founder and president of Caught Up. Billboard quote, "It's never about your feelings." For weekly visionary value, subscribe to the show. Enjoy.
I always tell people, knowing the story of like how even Caught Up like came about, right? So I had a friend that we used to always like kind of run things by each other, talk about what I wanted to do. And so we talked about politics and we also talked about this program. And I'll never forget, like one day I was just telling them like how I wanted it to be like a peer mentoring thing. So like I wanted other kids to mentor, like older kids to mentor younger kids, kind of bring them along, show them the way, you know, and college kids to mentor high school kids, stuff like that. And of course, like it's kind of changed. But I remember, I'll never forget, like we were sitting at the DIA, which is the Detroit Institute of Arts, and we were sitting in the room, and you could like draw on this paper, and he had put the word "Caught Up" in the middle of the paper and circled it. And I was like, wow, like yeah, that's a good name, like because basically we want to catch kids up, right? And so people think of it as a negative, like, but it's actually pretty positive. Like we're catching up morally, academically, intellectually, one young person at a time. And since, man, it's so sad, like. He died. So wow. He like developed some like very a weird type of cancer. Like it was just like I forgot what it was called, but he died like a few years ago while we were like in our strategic plan phase, and like it kind of like really like hurt. Like I was like, man, so like I kind of really do a lot of work, you know, just knowing like. I had somebody that really believed in me and cared, and I was kind of like really like devastated he had died. But Caught Up is simply, I think he'll be proud to see where we are now. It's like simply a mentoring program. We work with incarcerated juveniles. We work with kids that are at risk in high schools, and we also work with just like kids from the neighborhood. And so it's powerful. I love the work that we do. I love the lives that we're changing, and it's growing each and every day. So excited about it.
Now, are you yourself from Detroit?
Yes, born and raised in Detroit. If you ever knew me at Oakwood or heard anything about me, like that would be the first thing I'll talk about. It's like, hey, I'm going back to Detroit. Like everybody's like, you want to go back to Detroit? I'm like, I'm absolutely going back to Detroit.
So that was something that you knew, like while you were in school, you're like, I want to go back home and I want to make a change.
Absolutely, yeah. I kind of knew that back in high school, like just like seeing my friends fall victim to the streets and stuff like that. Like it was always like when I got to Oakwood, it was like I want to change. I want to make sure I make a difference in the lives of people. And then Oakwood kind of like it's just motivated me to even do more. And I was kind of excited about that. Like I was like, man, I really felt empowered to do a lot more of my community by attending Oakwood. So.
And how did you get to Oakwood yourself? Like because everybody's story is different, man.
Everybody's story is different, right? So I grew up Adventist technically, right? My mom wasn't really Adventist. I didn't really start attending church till I was like 16 years old on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say like I got to Oakwood. It was kind of hard at first because I didn't think I had enough money, like everybody's story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up going to community college. I was like, I still got to go to Oakwood. I want to go to Oakwood. And so I ended up going to Oakwood. Crazy thing, I left the first semester. I left Oakwood, and I never thought I would return. And then I came back, and I became student body president, and just been like an advocate for Oakwood ever since. So absolutely enjoyed my time there.
That's amazing, man. And the fact that you came, why did you leave the first time and then you came back with such a strong impact?
Yeah, good question. I don't know what was going through my mind. I think I was ready to live the Detroit life too fast. I was like, I'm going to go back to Detroit, get a job, start working in politics, and which I did. I did all of that. But then something came to me like, yo, I need to finish my degree. Like, you better go back. So I ended up like, hey, let me go back. So I went back. It was pretty cool. It was great, like I said, because I ran for president. I won twice. I did a lot of stuff, accomplished a lot of things, and then I was back in Detroit.
That's awesome, man. And is Caught Up, I've been wondering this, is Caught Up your full-time gig, or do you do something else on the side too? Or I don't know which one is the side, which one is both major projects. What is it?
It's major, man. People always ask me like, how do you somebody talked to me the other day, like, hey man, it's amazing what you're doing to only do this on a part-time basis, Okay. And I feel like it might be part-time, but I really feel like it's full-time.
Exactly.
I spend most of my afternoons working on Caught Up stuff, picking up the kids, doing things like that. So no, it's not my full-time gig. It's not a gig at all because I don't get paid for it, right?
Right, exactly.
But overall, I work at a school. So when I originally started Caught Up, it was like, hey, I was working with the mayor's office. And I was running into so many different people. And I'm like, man, these kids, they need to meet these type of people because they could really help them. Like, they have so much to give, so much to where they can help. And so that's when I first started. So I left the mayor's office last year and I went to a school. So to be honest, I had a lot more flexibility when I was with the mayor's office, even though he was on call like 24 hours, but I had a lot more flexibility to go do different things. Now I'm at a school and that's like 8 to 3 every day,
yeah.
all day. I'm the dean. So still working with kids, still love it. But it's a lot because I have to be there from 8 to 3 no matter what. And it is nonstop from once you hit the door. It's nonstop. And so it's been wonderful doing that, but it is definitely a lot. I spend a lot of my weekends doing Caught Up stuff. I spend a lot of my evenings doing a lot of Caught Up things as well.
So did you leave when the mayor left, or why did you make the transition from that to the school system?
Well, I was just kind of ready for something new, I would say. The mayor's still there. And it is good. I always heard from guys that was in politics, like, hey, always make sure you leave before the mayor leaves. And so so you have a job, some things. So you still have to connect the mayor's office. So you make yourself more valuable.
Right.
And that's kind of the avenue I took, leave early, still have that connection, still know people, still work it out and make it happen.
And I kind of want to get into how, because you have gone full force into this thing. I mean, you've really dedicated your life to helping this cause. And there's something that I feel like a lot of us, and I don't know if it's an Oakwood thing. I don't really think so, because I talk to lots of people who are outside of those walls and have the same questions about this thing of your purpose or being called to do something. College is kind of like that place where you're supposed to figure all that stuff out and figure out, what your purpose is, your career path, and now we are in the era of doing what you love and pursuing your passion and your calling, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, okay, that's great, but how the heck do I know what I'm called to be doing, or how do I know if I'm doing something that's actually purposeful in my life? I kind of want to get into whether you had that moment of epiphany or something like that with you, because it looks like you're living a very purpose-driven life right now. Like you said, it's not a gig at all. You do it, you don't get paid. So I feel like there has to be some purpose in there. What was that like for you, finding that out?
Man, good question. I feel like I would say from growing up in Detroit, a lot of my friends, man, they didn't have their fathers. I didn't have my father in my life. It was just kind of tough, right? And when I went to Oakwood, something that dawned on me was that, like, hey, all these people have their fathers. They have people in their lives that care about them. And I was like, if kids in Detroit could get that, they probably could make it out, right? Mm-hmm. And so I kind of developed it, right? Like at Oakwood. And when I tell you, it's crazy when you're living out your purpose. Like, it's like I can do this with my eyes closed. People are like, man, how do you do this all day, every day? I mean, and then just like the heartbreak, the things that you go through. It's like, yeah, absolutely. I feel like I'm living my purpose out, because nobody in their right mind could just take some of the stuff that you go through on a daily basis, man. It is tough. It is heartbreaking. I mean, it's challenging, but at the same time, like I was talking to a kid today, man. So after work, he's at the juvenile center, and I tell you, like he brought tears to my eyes. And I think like me getting emotional made him emotional, and like I just saw him I just saw the hurt in his eyes. Like his social worker was saying like how he kind of had a breakdown. He hadn't heard from his father. His mother don't want anything to do with him. And like, you get like, and he had a breakdown like the other day. She was like, she didn't know where it was coming from. And, I was sitting there talking to him, and it's just like, he's just like going through it. Like, it's like, man, nobody want me. Like, I'm here. I don't have nobody. And I'm like, man, like, I was like, I feel your pain, bro. Like, man, I was just kind of talking to him like, hey, you just got to kind of like, don't matter. Like, just push through. Like, like you can't worry about if people want you or not. Like, you still got to live your life. You can't get mad or get upset or make your life worse because nobody wants you. And that's the way he felt. Like, he felt so forgotten and like nobody wanted him. And it was just like, I was so sleepy, bro, driving there. Like, oh my gosh. I was like falling asleep on work because I was so tired. And I told him, like, I actually slept in the parking lot for like 10 minutes before I even went in there. And like, that gave me so much energy, like talking to him, like, and like only got like a 30-minute session, and it just came just like that. I'm like, man, that's crazy. Like, and, and I felt like he went away, like, believing in himself. And so I was like, I live for that. Like that, that does a lot for me. It's like shooting the basket, winning, like with 1 second left, you feel me? Cause I know he needed that. He needed that today, and I was kind of happy to be there for him.
Man, I guess it's that thing that you could do, like when you're in a flow state, you could just do it. Like, it's so a part of you that you don't even have to think about it. It's just almost like muscle memory. It's just something. And then when you do it, even when you're tired, you just feel that like that boost of energy. Like it's like a high, it's like a high that you're on. Even like
exactly
when you're tired, you don't feel like doing it, but when you start, it's just like it clicks like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Seriously.
Man, and I feel like, lots of us have that thing already.
Yeah.
But it's just not in the framework of what's acceptable, kind of, because okay, let's say for example you were in school, and I think some people are blessed to have great professors that encourage them to do what they feel called to do, but you say, okay, I want to be, do a nonprofit, help these teenage young men and do this, and somebody might say, well, there's no money in that, or there's no, that's not a likely thing to do, or you're pushing yourself back where you could be so much farther doing this. So we kind of is just like, oh, well, that's not legitimate type thing.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like, I don't know, man, if you just go there and just let the other stuff work itself out, you know, I feel like that you will be in a much more fulfilled place. And this is me just talking, like, I'm not saying this from experience or anything like that. I'm kind of just basing it off of your experience. But, you know, I just feel like if we went there first, everything else could kind of fill around that thing so that we could be supported to do what we need to do. But
you know, me, like, I'm a realist kind of guy, and I'm very, like, pragmatic. I think that I always tell people, like, hey, live your dream. I always tell even my mentees, like, but I'm like, hey, don't get yourself way out there, like, where you can't take care of yourself and stuff like that, you know? And so, like, but I feel like people absolutely should live their passion. It will give you, it will inspire you to keep going. And a lot of people are like, man, you should do this full time. And I'm like, well, I'm not really there yet. I'm a very, like I said, I'm not which I should be more like a step out on faith kind of guy. Like, hey, I'd rather, like, see it. Like, all right, so now I can move to this area. Like, you know, I can move away from that. But honestly, like you said, like, doing your passion, like, for example, my, like, the mentoring program, like, hey, that's a passion, but I'm living my passion every day at work. Like, you know, at work, every time I go there and I'm dealing with kids, I'm working with them, like, that's my passion. You feel me? Yeah. So I'm still doing it. And although I'm not getting paid that great amount of money, but God has blessed me. God has shown me, like, you know, you don't need to be rich, and I feel rich every single day, like, going home and knowing I'm impacting lives, knowing I'm changing lives, you know, seeing some of the stuff the kids send me. It's just, like, inspiring, like, keeps you going, man. It keeps you going for sure. So I'm excited.
I completely understand the so there's this podcast I listen to called Group Chat, right? And one of the characters, well, he's not a character, he's a real person, but he's kind of like a character on the show. He classifies himself as a champagne socialist, right? So it's kind of like, you know, you're a socialist, you're for the people, but also you kind of like that privilege type thing. Yeah. So it's like a mixture. So, like, I understand, like, I'm like a real optimist or something like that, or like a realistic optimist, where it's like, hey, look, you can look for the best, but, you know, you still got to have your ducks in a row.
Exactly.
And I feel like, you know, no matter what, you can still do that thing. So it may not pay the bills. You gotta get it. You gotta get a dang job, man. Like, but you can still, that's not an excuse for you not to be able to still do that thing, and for it to still bring you lots of joy and fulfillment in your life. So I kind of want to ask you this. Another thing that I know a lot of visionaries, and that's who the target audience really is for this show. When someone asks you, especially when it's something that's not aligned within the framework of what's, you know, successful, when people ask you, man, what do you do, or what do you want to do? It's like time stops for a little bit, and you're just like, okay, so how do I word this so that they can understand? How do I explain it so that they can still respect me afterwards? So, you know, have you ever, how do you explain your purpose and mission to people who have never heard of you and never heard of what you do before?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the same to me. Like, so I love talking about what I do. So, I'll give you an example. So recently our first time, we just got a space of our own, and it's at a mostly Caucasian church, but the church is beautiful, and it has the church is so big, man. Like, it's like 2 blocks long almost. Like, it's crazy big. But it's like 60 people there. But naturally they wanted to sit down and talk to us, like, hey, well, tell us about this program. Tell us about, like, why are you doing this and stuff. And, you know, I came in and I was so energetic. The guy was telling me, so we had an open house this past weekend. He was like, man, I just knew, like, from the first moment you walked in there, like, I just knew, like, you were the right one for this place. Like, and I believe, like, I'm already energetic, passionate person already. And so like I love to talk about what I do and how I do it. And people will come, like people always come and ask you like, well, is it worth it? Or some people come out of left field. Nah, I wouldn't say left field, but I'd be like, hey, well, how about you do a program for this person or do a program for something random.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, well, kind of focus on this right now. Like, I don't really blow them off. I've made a commitment to myself and to the program. Like, I don't want to create any type of like enemies or people that don't like the program. So I try to be pleasing to a lot of people, which is not good at all. But I feel like I don't want to have people, man, oh, that program is bougie, or they think they're better, or they don't want to work with this certain population. So I try to like tell them, like, I try to be open to a lot of stuff, but at the same time, know like what is my mission, what is my purpose, and keep to that. Because if you don't, like people came in there, like I remember I had staff, like, so most of the time, like our Saturday night program, it's kind of fun, but it's very competitive for some of the kids. Like they love basketball. And so some of the kids are very competitive. So they don't want to play with the little kids. And I was like, oh, you should make them play with the little kids. I'm like, nah, they're not going to come if they play with the little kids. So like, they just got to play at their own time. And so I was like, so some of the little kids, we had got 2 gyms, so the little kids could go in other gyms. I was like, oh, it seems like you just put them away. I'm like, listen, trust me, like, this is the program, like, but it was just great. But people come up with suggestions and things they should tell you to do. You just got to kind of have to like stand firm sometimes, but at the same time, like you have to be open to suggestions and things happening. So I love doing that. Love talking about the program. Love showing my passion for it.
Yeah, 2 things that I pulled out of that for real is the first thing is like not to be afraid to be enthusiastic about what you do. Like I feel like if you show the energy first, the people are gonna be like, well, if he's this excited about it, it has to be something. It has to be,
exactly.
Because I feel like you try to play it cool, I just do a little thing. I just, so they're like, oh, well, what is this little thing that you do? Like, so they're not going to be excited if you're not excited about it.
Exactly.
So I think like just
gotta be excited.
Take off the blinders and just be the real authentic you. You know that you're excited about what you do. Bring that and show it to the other people. They'll be excited about what you do too, because they see how excited you are. The second thing was though, man, like so many people, and this is no fault to anyone else. But people have suggestions. People have
lots of suggestions.
People who have never done anything close to what you do will all of a sudden become experts on what you want. So it's just having that openness to hear people out, because you don't want to be, I'm trying to think of a kosher word to use, but you don't want to be stubborn and just like shut off all people like, no, I know what I'm doing type of thing. But you also have to know what you're doing and know what your mission is and what you were trying to do, because people are persuasive. People will get into your head and they think they're trying to help you, and they have the best intentions. But if you know what your mission and your purpose is and you want to stay on that path, hey, look, you and God got this, and then be open, but be focused.
Exactly.
So I think that's real big. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend. He was like, he's a big business guy. He was, it just made me think I need to call him back. But he was kind of telling me like about what I need to do and the importance of like creating a mission, creating goals and a purpose, and sticking to it. So like you could look at it, hey, well, that don't fit into our mission, right? That don't fit into what we're trying to do. And he was like, just being clear to that. So people already know what you're doing. It's like, it don't fit, And so like, it can be broad, but at the same time, make sure it fits under what we're doing. So
yeah. And people most of the time will respect that. And that's something that I had to kind of get more comfortable with doing. And of course, with like the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. But like people will ask to, hey, can I be on the show? I do this, and I'm like, it's not really with the focus. Not really with the,
exactly.
And so people are like, nah, but I could. So I'm just like,
we're good.
We're good. We're good. Great. And everything.
People do that with my kids, man. Like, everybody think like they should just listen to everything. So someone like, oh, I have a presentation I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, send me something that you've done before, like, or I don't let anybody just get in front of them because then
Exactly.
you'll lose credibility with kids fast. Like, oh yeah, this
Yeah.
is boring. I'm not going to that no more. That was
Yep.
a waste of my time. Like,
Yep.
so it's important.
Yeah, yeah. You have to honor the people that you are working for. It's
Yeah,
that they're the number one priority. How are you serving them? So,
yeah.
and I also want to know, man, as a visionary yourself, has there ever been a time where you were explaining what you were doing and just the other people couldn't see the vision that you had? And you just, it felt like you were hitting a roadblock. Like, how did you, if this has ever happened, how did you move
Yeah,
forward?
yeah. I think so this is what I'll tell people overall about that type of stuff. Um, you have to know what you want to do, right? And I'm just thinking, if somebody ever told me about the program, like Caught Up, uh, well, I could tell you something. So something like happened where they're like, well, the kids you're getting. So here's the thing. This people wasn't. So think about Caught Up. They're like, a person told me, hey, the type of kids you're getting, you're not gonna have a much success rate with them, you know. And they're like, and I'm like, and they try to convince me like, hey, you need to like try to get better kids in the program because it'll look better and stuff like that, which is true. Like I understand exactly where they're coming from. Like you need to have people and show successes. And I was like, you know what? But that's kind of like not our program.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want the kids that people feel like can't be saved, that are forgotten about, that are too far gone, that people think. And what I've learned is that like that's my passion. That's what I like to do, and we go from there. You know, but people have tried to convince me like that's not a good route to take. Like you're doing the wrong thing. You're not taking a good route, and you're not gonna have much successes, which is true. Like I mean, it's kind of hard with that group. You have a lot more heartache. You have a lot more pain. But at the same time, like that's our mission. That's the group we work with. Those kids that are forgotten about. So
yeah. Have you ever felt like giving up, like with what you do?
yeah, man. Last year, I don't know if you heard, but like so we get a lot of kids into Oakwood.
Yes.
So last year, like we got up to like right now we're up to like 23, 24 kids at Oakwood. Last year was the highest amount. We had like 16 kids. I tell you, that was a blessing, man. Like, oh man, God truly blessed. And I was so excited about it. And then like within a month, one of the kids got killed.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, like, that was the worst, like getting a phone call, like having to go tell his mom, going down, realizing like it was the kids down there, like it wasn't focused. They was like, it was frustrating because it was like they had brought like their Detroit mindsets to like Oakwood. And I'm like, man, like when I came to Oakwood from Detroit, I was more focused. Like I was doing what I was supposed to do. Like, why can't y'all figure that out? And so like it was just like, hey, is this even worth it, man? Like, like what's the purpose? Like, like going back to that conversation, just like what I was just saying previously, like people like, hey, it's not much success in this success rate. And so it's like you gonna deal with this type of stuff. And so I had a long conversation, like, and battle in my head, like, is this even worth it? Like, it's just hard to go through, So a lot of times, man, you want to give up. We recently had a kid killed, just maybe about 2-3 weeks ago. We buried him, but you're trying to work with kids, trying to save their lives, and it's like, man, something happens, and it's just crazy. So yeah, it's tough. There are days like you help a kid and then they don't do what they're supposed to do, and it just messes you up. Like, man, I did all this for you. I took kids to school and Jackson got kicked out within the first month. I'm like, bruh, like I did all that. Like I took off work to get you up here. You just 1 month, like, so a lot of days it's like, man, the devil tries to get in your head like, hey, it's over. Like these kids can't be saved. And then you get days like where you see kids are doing well. You see kids are making it. They're like, hey, like kids send me something like, hey, man, like his mom died in a car accident and he had gotten into his aunt. He really had nobody to depend on. And I started being involved in his life. He was like, he showed me like a PowerPoint he did in class, and he was like, "Yo, you were a light in when I was in a very dark place. Like he was like, you were a light for me. You showed me like there's still good people out there." And I was like, "Wow, that's crazy." So
Yeah, it's the ups and downs. It's
yeah, it is. It's a roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster. Yeah. And I feel like only if you are in that calling, that purpose-driven life, you'll stick with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like if you're down and you're just like, forget this, like maybe you weren't in the right place before, you know? Yeah. And of course, we all have those thoughts, but you keep moving forward. So like for some things, like I know I really wanted to do music at one point, and I'm still really big on music, man. I love music, but I thought I was going to be like my full-time thing. Like I was going to be a producer and all that stuff, and then more important things, things that I was even more passionate about came into my life, and it kind of just like, I love this, but it's not my calling. Yeah. And you kind of just realize that when you go through certain things and you don't have that extra thing that other people don't have to keep you going forward, even when it gets really hard, you know, that's just something you could kind of cross off the list. All right, this may not be it, but I know I'm moving forward to something else. Yeah. And I love asking these last two questions to everybody, because everyone I get on the show, I make sure that they're really good, wise people. So they always blow my mind when I ask them. Because so if you had a billboard, and you want everyone to see it, everybody that drives by, could be in Detroit, sees this billboard that you sponsor, and it has a message, what would be the message that you feel like people need to hear?
Oh, good question. And then you purpose it when somebody always gets so deep. So like, now you got me thinking. What I live by is something I heard you don't really remember graduation speeches, right? Yeah. But I was doing something my graduation speaker said, and it was something like, he said, like, it's never about your feelings, right? He's like, it's never about. So basically, he was like, don't get. It's crazy because I'm reading this book right now on emotional intelligence, but it was like, don't ever get caught up in the hype. Don't ever get caught up in like, hey, this person don't care about me. Oh, this person not supporting. Like, do what you're supposed to do. So like, I guess if I had the title of Billboard, I was like, it's never about your feelings. Like, keep pushing forward. Keep doing what you're supposed to do. And, you know, things will they'll work out for you. And so that's kind of like what I would say. Like, a lot of people, they get emotional. They make decisions off emotion. They quit because of emotion. Like, I've seen people, like, even some of my mentees, like, they quit their job because the boss, they don't like the boss. I'm like, hey, how you gonna get money? Like, you know, so, hey, it's never about your feelings. It's always about what's that end goal, and always, you know, go for it until you get there.
That's good, man. That's a good quote. It's never about your feelings. Wow.
Yeah. I would make a shirt. Something like
that. You should make that shirt. That would be great.
Yeah. But it was deep to me. Like, I was like, because as I traveled through life, man, a lot of times, you know, people, you get your feelings real quick because it's stuff that happen, right? And so it's like, hey, man, you got to push forward. Like, you can't be worried about that. People not worried about all that type of stuff, you know? And the better you are with pushing past all the obstacles and your emotions, you know, the better you'll be successful. And that's what I learned. I learned that at my job this year, like, you know, where people were coming after me, like, it was a new job. People was like, hey, he only got it because he worked for the mayor. Like, that type of stuff. Like, you know, it's just like, man, I couldn't come in there, like, get all sad, get all frustrated, lose my temper, you know, lose my cool. And it's like, so I push past it. Like, don't get caught up in my feelings. Like, keep going, you know? So that's still with me, man. I graduated in 2005, and that quote is still with me strong. So
that's great, bro. And last thing, man, I want to just know, what's been the most rewarding part of you pursuing the vision you have for your life?
I've seen how far, like, God has taken us is amazing. You know, I have a story for everything that happened with this program. It started off with a kid from University of Michigan who was like, he is a genius. He's in Harvard Medical School now. Wow. He scored in the highest percentile on the MCAT. And I met him because he was my intern with me at the mayor's office. And so when I was starting the program, I took him with me to show him the juvenile center. And I was like, hey, you should check it out. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And the kid went home and wrote it all up, sent it to me like, hey, this is, I was like, wow. No, he didn't do that. He got all his friends, man. He got all his friends. And they all like when we would sit down together and we'll talk, like they will hold each other accountable. I would never have to be like, hey, that deadline's due. Hey, this is due. They will always just come through. Like every time they raise money, they plan events, and all of them are like, they're going off and doing their own thing now. One of them works where he went to the Fed in Chicago. He's not doing his master's, but when he worked for the Fed in Chicago, he donated like large amounts of money, and it's just like, it was like, you could tell that they had a passion for it. Mm-hmm. They loved the work that I did. And we keep in contact to this day. And so seeing like it started from that point where I was traveling an hour away up to Ann Arbor, meet with these college students. And now the program is grown to 3 different type of programs. We have a bunch of volunteers. We just got our own space. We're doing a amazing gala type banquet every year, and we're just like changing lives. And it's like, I was like, man, like, we started with 3 or 4 kids, and now we have over 100 kids in the program, and it's like, it's amazing. I'm always amazed that like I remember when we first did our banquet and some of the kids started talking about the program. I was just like, wow. We did all of that. Like, I was just like, that's amazing. I never looked at it that way. I always looked at it like, hey, we're just grinding each and every day. We're grinding. And now, like, you see the fruits of your labor. Like, you see, like, what it's turned out to be. And it's been a blessing. So it's been a journey, and I'm excited about it. But it's truly been a blessing seeing how much this program have grown.
Yeah. And I like asking that question because sometimes you talk to these super successful people, and that's the first time they get their head up from the grind and look back. And really think about like, wow, I did all of that. And you see them like when they talk about it, like, man, that really is what the part that makes me happy. It's super satisfying for you to see that. And like, we get so caught up in the hustle and all that stuff. Like, no, that's good, but man, give yourself some credit. Take yourself a little seriously every once in a while.
Exactly. So yes, sir.
Wow, I know I was super inspired by that conversation with Toson. He, without a shadow of a doubt, is operating in his purpose at work and in life. I really hope that this episode was a real representation of what a purpose-driven life looks like. It's not speaking in arenas, it's not making tons of money, it's not writing New York Times best-selling books. Of course, all those things can be done and are great if they happen, but they're not necessary for your purpose to be legitimate. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. You can make a change exactly where you are. Toson is making a huge difference in the world we live in. And he started out just like most of you can. Well, all of you can, really. And that's from the ground up, exactly where he was. And you can do the same starting today. If you were inspired by this episode, please give it a rating on Apple Podcasts so that this message can be spread to more people. The link to do that is in the show notes. All right, guys, I'll talk to you on Friday. And until then, keep building your vision every single day. Peace.